running before you learn how to walk in a lot of ways when you're doing just creative up front without all the other infrastructure and understanding and looking at it systematized.
I hate seeing companies where they haven't made a post for a year and a half. It just shows me that you're not relevant, you're not staying on top of it.
Front.
Yeah.
I think the reason this question even comes up, though, is because there has been a push towards moving dollars from traditional to digital. And it's not because it's less valuable necessarily, but I think it's more measurable.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are located listening today. Welcome to the Challengtunity podcast. I'm Chris Lawson, your host. We have a very exciting episode today. As usual, joining me is my co-host, Jordan Woolf, who tells me that men in his family get denser bones and thicker hair as they age. So
It's good to know. It's good to know.
Is that true?
Well, I don't know. I guess I'll never know what the hair thing might
from
be the case.
From experience, we don't know. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I mentioned, we have a very interesting episode today. The episode is a little unique. It's just going to be you and I today. We don't have a host, or I guess a guest. And we're going to expose, or at least try to expose, marketing myths. So there's 8 myths that we've kind of put our brain together and wrote down, and our goal today is to expose those. Are you ready? Are you excited?
Super ready. Yeah.
Super ready?
Yep.
Well, why don't we just dive into it? Because I think each of the 8 topics or myths that we're going to talk about could be a podcast episode on their own. We're hoping that we're only going to talk for a few minutes on each and just kind of get right to the heart of the matter. And so I don't want to waste any time. How's that sound?
Rapid fire. Let's do it.
Rapid fire. All right, Jordan, first one. You need a huge budget to get results in digital marketing.
So budgets are always an important thing to look at from the context of return. So anytime we're talking about marketing, it's in the pursuit of something. There must be a goal. We think of smart objectives. There's also campaign-related outcomes like return on ad spend, for example, and in the advertising portion of your marketing mix. All of these focus the efforts towards achieving something that gets you something else. So if we're talking about marketing, or advertising might be the cleanest way to look at budgets, you can look at a budget through the scaling of the result. So if you're needing to get something that is very costly to achieve, then yes, a budget is going to cost and require a larger budget. So if you're selling a very difficult product to sell, or a product that has a high price or has a really long buying cycle, that may influence that a higher budget is required. Other things like the competitiveness and how your competitors might be influencing the pricing of certain mediums or access to certain mediums in your marketing mix. That can also be an element to it. One example I use here to really illustrate this with the competitor influence is, when we work with, say, a small business like a local insurance brokerage, and there's lots of them out there, depending on your province or state. You may have insurance brokerages out there, and they're trying to sell car insurance or life insurance, any number of things that, they could make great money on. And, if they were to approach an agency like ourselves, or even try to do this in-house, where they might use, say, Google PPC ads as a common way to get business in many different industries. The problem is, in that particular industry, if you're going to be a local insurance brokerage, you're a small business, maybe, a couple owners, or just it's your own business, and you've got a few staff, you're maybe going to look at it and go like, hey, I'm going to spend $5,000 on PPC advertising. That's a lot of money. I'm going to make sure that I get a good return from that. But what you'll realize is that in most markets, small local insurance brokerages are competing against larger formal banks and huge institutions where $5,000 is a joke. So your $5,000, you're hoping to spend maybe $1 or $2 a click to get some decent traffic, which could become your next customer. And that may be true, except, a bank is willing to pay, maybe $150 a click, because they're looking at the big picture, like the
Yeah.
the longevity of that client, and they've
The
got the
lifetime
money to
value.
throw around, and they
Yeah.
do. So that can really influence your budgets. So saying something as broad as you need a huge budget to get results is probably too broad of a statement, but
It
it
is.
can be required in certain situations.
I agree with everything you're saying. I would also add to it ties to your objective and your business modeling. So, for example, if you're going to try to be the next, I don't know, product supplier for the entire United States, right? And you have the infrastructure to handle that, and that's what you need to do based on your business model in order to flourish, well, you're probably going to need a bigger budget. Same thing applies with the geography that's tied to that. Sometimes when we talk to businesses, they come in and they say, hey, well, yeah, I want to run ads in, I don't know, basically from, Western Canada all the way over to Ontario. And it's okay, well, that's great. But do you realize your $1,000 divided by 30 days in the month equates to $30 odd dollars per day divided up by all the cities? Next thing you know, you have $1 in Toronto, $1 in Calgary or whatever. So I think you have to be realistic about your budget. Let's jump into the next one, which honestly is one that I'm passionate about. You must be on every social media channel for your organization.
Why don't you start this one?
You want me to start
You
that
even
one?
asked the question, but yeah, just answer your own question.
I'll answer my own question. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I think social media is a fun one to clients because we use it every day. It's different. You don't talk to clients very often, and they have this incredible knowledge about the back end algorithm of some, of Google or for search or something. But with social, people understand how it works for the most part. But the problem is, even though there might be 1 billion users on Instagram or on Twitter or on YouTube or on Facebook or whatever platform, doesn't mean you have to be there. You first have to understand your messaging, who that message is applicable to, reverse engineer that to your audience, and then ultimately do it well. I hate seeing companies where they haven't made a post for 1.5 years. It just shows me that you're not relevant, you're not staying on top of it. You're better off to focus on a channel or two and do it well than to focus on a third, a fourth, a fifth. And
especially if that's a market that your audience is actually spending their time on, then spend your time on your dollars there.
You'll talk to municipalities or oil and gas companies, and you'll look on their bottom of their website at their channels that they're focusing on. They'll have Twitter, for example, and you're just like, why are you on Twitter? Why? You're not, unless you're a day trader or something. Twitter is not going to be relevant to majority of businesses out there when it comes to getting ROI. Measurable ROI. So, my opinion, you should not be on every single social media channel. If anything, focus in on a couple and ace it. What say you, Jordan?
I would agree with all those things, but just making sure that you're keeping your audience at the forefront of that to know that if you're doing the best TikTok strategy, but none of your customers use TikTok because they're, maybe they skew older or whatever it happens to be, then you're probably wasting your time, or you're just really going after a very small sliver of a niche of that audience that happens to be on that platform. So you need to balance what you can pull off, what you have time to do well as what is going to actually be viewed by your ideal customer.
And if you're doing TikTok dances and your market's not even there, that's a lot of energy expelled. So
maybe good exercise though. So
it would be good.
There's always that.
What's the next myth there, Jordan Woolf?
Marketing is all about promotion. And promotion's an interesting word in the marketing area because that often gets called a synonym in a lot of ways for marketing, or advertising, or those things kind of blend together. But interesting question.
Well, when I understand the word promotion, what I really think about is pushing a product, a service, a mandate upon somebody. You're promoting something to them. No, not all marketing is about promotion. We often think about online advertising. Yeah, there could be some promotion there. But at the same time, brand awareness is not always about promotion. You can very much showcase your brand in a unique way that showcases your values. Maybe it's not about pushing a service or a product or a value proposition. Maybe you're looking for something like, I don't know, careers or employment, right? Sometimes it's not about pushing, who you are upon people. It's just about naturally showcasing who you are and the values you carry on social media throughout the year, so that when that eventually does happen, you don't have to be that organization that changes your logo to a certain color to just say that you stand out. You don't have to push something. It can be a part of your culture and ingrained in your marketing throughout the year in different ways.
Mm-hmm. And trust is a big word in that, I think, too, where if you're able to build trust with somebody, even if you don't really have a firm grasp of what they offer, people are people. Like, we build friendships this way, we build families this way, and communities this way, where, I don't really care that you have a nice thing, so long as I can, trust you to help me when I'm down or help me with a certain problem. So if you're a business that's able to convey trust in a meaningful and actually genuine way, then that can be really, really beneficial for when that customer happens to stumble into the need and then go like, well, actually, I'd prefer to work with you now that I have this need.
All right. Myth number 4.
Yeah, we can.
I want to ask this one to you.
Okay.
Traditional marketing. Is it dead? Is traditional marketing dead?
No.
Why?
It's definitely not dead. So, I mean, when I think of traditional marketing, just to kind of roughly define it, for most people, traditional and digital are really pitted against each other in most situations, where they're treated as kind of a yin and a yang, like as if there's some drastically different phenomenon. But in reality, they're just two different places people spend their time. Traditionally, traditional advertising is like your Mad Men, your advertising, your billboards, your magazine ads, things that you might kind of run into in the outside real world, air quotes, real world. With the digital marketing, on the other hand, that's of course stuff that occurs online. So you need to be plugged in, sitting in front of a screen, interacting with a program, an app, a website, a browser. And I think on average, like, there's some stats that say like about 6 hours per day is spent by the average person in North America online, which is quite a bit of time. 6 hours is quite a bit of time to market to people. Yeah, minimum. And if you're awake for even 12 hours in your day, that, I guess that would be a 12-hour sleep. So whoever's getting 12 hours of sleep these days, so you let me know how you're pulling that off. But let's be generous and say that there's another 6 hours that people are not online, and they are out there in the world interacting, going, taking their kids to soccer, doing whatever it happens to be. Those are still marketing opportunities. And as far as like eyeballs and getting in front of somebody, is equally as many hours per day. So it's certainly not dead on that front.
Yep.
I think the reason this question even comes up, though, is because there has been a push towards moving dollars from traditional to digital. And it's not because it's less valuable necessarily, but I think it's more measurable.
Yes.
And I think that's the key.
Yeah.
And the online world, that everything's measurable, trackable. Even though we're getting cookie blockers and things like that, AI is now taking over that job of kind of making sure that we understand who's visiting websites, who's interacting with things, how much of our dollars are going where and why. That's huge for a business. You want to know those things, so that on the opposite side, you put up a billboard on the side of the street and you might get some vague ideas of the average traffic that goes by there. You don't know who they are, whether they like the message or not. Now, as we get into the more multi-connected world, that's slowly shifting back. We're getting some digital data with like cameras and things that track things in spooky ways in the real world that are influencing traditional marketing methods with more data inputs. So that may balance out over time.
You literally stole my answer with the data analysis and the measurability of it. I grew up in a household where traditional marketing was the focus. My mom was a marketing coordinator for years for a company that's a lot of what they did, and that was the era. The measurability of your ads, of your website, the ability to control, if that's the right word, the user experience, and to a certain degree influence, the buying behavior is a very powerful thing that happens in this world. No different than the placement of the chips in the chip aisle. There's certain spots in the aisle that are going to convert or have people purchase those chips more than in other parts of that aisle, and it's worth more, right? It's no different than bidding on ads online. But I think what it really comes down to is understanding your audience, understanding who they are, where they live, Just like there's social media channels or, sectors of digital marketing that will not be applicable to you and your business, your organization, or that audience. Same thing applies with traditional marketing. Doing a radio or TV ad in the wrong market will have zero dividends for you. So it's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan, what's our next myth?
Marketing is led by creativity alone. That's, I started my career in the graphic design education, then went into business and then got into marketing. So it's kind of a weird hybrid of these worlds. But Chris, why don't you take a crack at that first?
Oh, can we just do a whole podcast on this topic? Because there's a lot here. Is it led by creativity alone? Well, clearly the answer is no. It's not led by creativity alone. I would argue it should never be led with creativity. If I'm being, maybe that's a hot take. Your marketing should not start with creativity, period. I think that is the truth. It should start with an understanding of your objectives, an understanding of your audience, not just, they're, single moms from this age to this age. No, I mean, what are the deep down heart-rooted problems that individual is trying to solve? Maybe they're a procurement person in a company. Maybe they're a marketing coordinator, or who are they and what do they need in their personal life? That gets you into data, that gets you into briefs, even strategy and hypothesis. But even when you get to a place where creativity and the sex appeal of marketing is applied, it's applied for a reason. And it's usually not because you had a shower and had some epiphany in the morning, or you're driving to work and you're singing your favorite, I was going to use a country person's name. I don't know if I can use their names on our podcast, but regardless, using an individual's song to inspire you or whatever, that's not where it comes from. And it definitely isn't where it comes from in the middle of that process. There's an iterative process where you're making ongoing adjustments based on testing and heat mapping and all these fun things. So no, marketing is not led by creativity. I don't even think it's maintained by creativity, but it is important. It does have a place. It will increase and affect conversions and engagement. It'll impact your brand. It'll impact a lot of things.
Yeah, we might be a little bit biased on this particular question due to our agency is kind of a bit of a reaction to this. We are the opposite of a creative agency. And it's not to say we don't do creative work. Of course we do. It's just integrated into other tasks. It is a step in a process that we follow where it's not the thing we lead with. Mostly we're building, systems and processes that build up fundamentals that kind of solve that problem that creativity up front would have, which is it's kind of like learning to, running before you learn how to walk in a lot of ways when you're doing just creative up front without all the other infrastructure and understanding and looking at it systematized. But then again, we invented an agency that invented a process called marketing systems engineering. So a little bit biased on this one.
Yeah, you just, creativity is within marketing. It's important. It's just you don't lead with it, I believe. The next marketing myth, Jordan, I'll ask you this one. It's an interesting one because if you are in the marketing world, I don't care if you're in an agency or not, and you focus in on, say, an oil and gas type client, or a lot of this B2B, those types of industries, a lot of the time what happens is you're dealing with executives, general managers, business development people. You're not dealing with marketing people. And the question comes up all the time from decision makers in those companies: do I need a marketing manager to promote my organization?
Yeah. My main problem with this one is actually the question is phrased in a way that probably most people would ask it, but really what the problem is I think a lot of people have a definition of what a marketing manager is that is incorrect to what is required today.
Coordinator.
Yeah, or a marketing coordinator or a marketing manager, right? So either of those things, I think to most people, if you look at most of the job descriptions, and certainly once you get these jobs, you end up becoming a marketing unicorn that's supposed to know everything about every part of marketing inside and out. And you'll be pivoting from designing brochures to running social media to, doing promotional campaigns at events and trying to do all these things at an exceptional level because you're in a competitive landscape. And the modern world is just so fractured with the amount of things you need to know and how specialized that knowledge needs to be in each of those one areas in order to be competitive, that you end up just kind of doing a whole bunch of things that achieve very little. And so that marketer who is everyone, who is everything, it's kind of like saying like, oh, we're going to build cars. So I'm going to hire somebody to build cars. It's like, okay, the same person who's assembling the vehicles, the same person who's painting it, who's also like forming the sheet metal, who's also, testing it and doing crash, like that doesn't make sense. You have specialists that help to move you from A to B to C to D to achieve a larger goal, which is your marketing. So your marketing mix should be looked at like a specialist. Now, do you need a marketing manager that helps to make sure that all those moving pieces can go? Someone who manages that? Probably. At a certain scale you do. Sometimes, you can start off with best practices and just get people doing smaller tasks that assemble to a bigger unit without somebody being central to it. But at a certain scale, it's probably a wise position, but only if you treat it as such. They're there to maximize all those specialists. They're not there to try to be bits of pieces, all of them.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would even kind of twist it a little bit in that if you are a marketing manager, a coordinator, a CMO, take the weight off your shoulders. You cannot know everything. You can't. You cannot be an expert in ads and an expert in social and an expert in Google's algorithm at the same time, be a designer and do all the content writing for your print. Oh, and by the way, also manage your radio and your TV and all the traditional stuff. Like you cannot be 100% in all of those things. Now, what you can be though, is you can be the person who's holding it all together in the middle and helping your agency and helping the person on Fiverr and all these, whatever you're doing, to be able to really produce the best assets or the best results that you're releasing them essentially. And you'll always have your skills, keep your things that you're really good at close to your chest and in-house. But no, you don't need a marketing coordinator to promote. You can reach out to an agency. You can have resources outside. And frankly, some of the stuff, depending on your market, like if you're a multinational company, the answer obviously is you need someone. But if you're a really small mom and pop shop or something like that, sometimes just running your email campaigns or your social media in-house based on budgetary restraints is the right move. You don't always have to be a genius. Jordan, next myth.
Yeah.
Marketing. Is it an event? Is it a one-time
Oh yeah, I did
thing?
it today. Yeah, it's done.
You did the marketing?
I finished the marketing today. Yeah. Did you know that? Yeah, we're done.
How many marketings did you do today? Just one, two,
At
three?
At least three.
Marketings?
Three marketings. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems silly, like just upfront. It seems like a silly kind of statement. I can understand it. And I think it's coming from more the perspective of like, oh, we did a campaign. We went to an event. Now it's over. We finished our marketing.
Yeah, projects.
This comes up unfortunately a lot for businesses that are, let's call them accounting run or financially based, where it's just all about budgets all the time. Cool, here, marketing department, spend your budget, do some things. That is the wrong way to look at it. It's more like we're assembling something that needs to keep moving, like we're building a path to get somewhere. So, it doesn't make sense. It's a journey, not a destination.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like on any journey, you stub your toe the odd time, right? You trip, you make mistakes in marketing. And if you're doing it properly, like we often say, if it's not measured, it's not managed. So if you're properly measuring as you go down that journey, you'll be able to not only understand how you got success, but when you do stub your toe and you do fail, you can reverse engineer that data and actually get success from it. So it is not an event. It is a process. That is what I will say to that one. What's the next one, Jordan?
So the last one, actually, We're going to end on this one. And this one's kind of a trick question in a way, so I'll let you kind of wrestle with this. But volume is what gets you results in social media.
There's going to be somebody out there that's going to absolutely hate my answer because we're in the middle of some shifts. And if you go to any marketing conference over the last, let's go back 4 or 5 years because COVID kind of stopped some of that. There were algorithms like LinkedIn that was all about volume. Every post that you did, you had to go and like or comment on 10 other people's posts. And it was like this mathematical, mysterious equation that everybody was trying to figure out. But at the end of the day, it was all about pushing as much as possible. And people like Gary Vee and that, not saying he promotes it like this now, but back then, he definitely was about volume. It's not anymore. And that might be where I get, some comments on this. But the reality is social channels, social networks are moving more toward a consistency approach. And it's an opinion of mine that I think what ends up happening when you're pushing so many reels and so many posts and so many stories, just like in the world of net promoter score methodology, you're causing people to be retractors of your brand and your product or your message, as opposed to causing them to be promoters. It will actually drive down your engagement rate, whether you're measuring things like direct messages, comments, likes, shares, things like that. So if you're out there and you're thinking, I don't know why I'm not getting results, I don't know why we're not getting all of the comments and the leads, it could be because you're trying too hard. You're better to push quality consistently. Like I know a lot of our clients, it's 3 posts per week. Period. And we get fantastic results with those clients. Again, it's a process that takes some time, weeks, months, quarters. But no, volume is not what I believe. Volume is not at all how you're going to get results on social media. Be relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. Engagement rates are a huge part of new algorithms these days. So, if we put something out there, do people actually click on it, spend time on it, go, read the article, open the read mores, do all that kind of stuff? Those become really important, which means your message has to be something that clicks with people. So you need to understand them really deeply and have something to say. Otherwise, none of those things happen. Now, there are times where you're just going to post something fluffy or have some fun with it. It's social media. You have some fun. Do what you want to do. Everything doesn't have to be thought out thoroughly to the nth degree. But every once in a while, you need to be making sure that that's part of your process to go through there and put something out there juicy, some steak that people can eat and share.
Well, sometimes the fluffy posts are the ones you get the most engagement on, right? But then it's the next post that you do in a few days or next week that has some oomph to it, actual value that speaks to that individual, that causes them to actually get that message in front of them because they were engaged with the one that was prior. So again, it ties to your strategy. Well, we decided today that we were going to take on 8 marketing myths, try to expose them. I think we did okay. In 27 minutes? I think, and some of these topics, Jordan, okay. Yeah, I think some of these topics we could have done an entire episode or even podcast on.
Definitely. Yeah. Let's do it again. Let's just do another 8. No.
Right now, go. Yeah, you know what? I would do that. I think there are so many marketing myths out there, whether it be digital or just mentality or, how you approach certain challenges that I think even educated individuals get stuck in these ruts. And I think down the road, let's do another episode where we're tackling another 8 marketing myths.
Absolutely.
So maybe we'll say this. If you are listening to this episode and you have a marketing myth on the top of your mind and you're going, let's see how these guys can answer this one, add it in the comments. Go to our website. Send us an email. We definitely want to hear from you. We don't do this just because we want to see our own face. We do this because, frankly, we're passionate about marketing. We're passionate about making a change in organizations' lives. So if you have questions, send them over. As usual, though, don't forget to subscribe to our channels. We launched this on YouTube through a video, but if you're listening to us, it's on Apple, it's on Google, it's on Spotify, so on and so forth. So anywhere that you get your podcasts, we are there. Jordan, it was a hoot.
Hoot, hoot.
Hoot, hoot. We'll see you guys all in 2 weeks. Cheers.